Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the Neuro Subathon 2, we had a goal to browse through the Neuro bookcase. There's a bookcase that you can see whenever I'm doing burpees and stuff. And many people were wondering, hey Neuro, that camera is pretty old and I can't even see what those books are. What do you have on your bookshelf? So I set a goal for me to go through each of them and basically tell you whether I've read them or not, any thoughts on it. And for the books that I have not read, at the end of this, we'll do a vote and you can choose which book I read next. Okay, so let us begin. Just from the bottom of the shelf, some people may have recognized these books. This is a D&D monster manual. Inside this book are many monsters. It's very dangerous to open because sometimes a monster will come out into your apartment. But let's just open it to a random page and see what we have here. This is a fairy dragon. A fairy dragon is a cat-sized dragon with butterfly wings. It wears a sharp-toothed grin and expresses its delight by the twitching of its tail, its merriment fading only if it is attacked. Invisible tricksters. The only warning of a fairy dragon's presence is a stifled giggle. The dragon stays out of sight, watching invisibly as its victims contend with its pranks. When its fun is done, the dragon might reveal itself, depending on the disposition of its prey. It gives you stats. It gives you colors. Apparently they change color based on their age. You've got stats for them. Armor class 15. Tiny dragon, chaotic good. Nice. Thank you, It's Vera. Now appreciate that. You rage and reckless attack at this. What's another one? Oh, goblins. There's a whole chapter on goblins. Here's a goblin. Awesome. Goblin boss. Flesh golems, clay golems, kobolds, Kenku are here. Nice. Kenku are feathered humanoids that wander the world as vagabonds, driven by greed. They can perfectly imitate any sound they hear. Nice. Medium humanoid, chaotic neutral. Yes, this is the D&D Monster Manual. Official book. I know there are a lot of off-brand D&D books, but this is some real stuff. Ooh, Merfolk and Marrow. This is like Naga Siren and Slardar. Pretty cool. How many ideas has Blizzard ripped off of D&D? The answer is just about all of them. Shield Guardian and a shambling mound. How to be a monster. Whenever you think of something monstrous to do, you just go for it. Slither hither, exactly. The next book is the D&D Player Handbook. Do you need to figure out details about your player's hands? How large are those hands? Do they have normal fingernails or claws? How many fingers do their hands have? All of these answers are inside the official D&D Player's Handbook. Let's open to a random page. These are elves. Beautiful. My green screen trips out a little bit. For anything that's like a green or a yellow. Tiefling. You can choose the race of the characters that you want to play. Is there also a D&D footbook? Yes, but that one's TOS. I can't show that on stream. The School of Conjuration. So you can basically choose what race in D&D you want to play. You can choose what class. You can choose what subclass. This doesn't include everything that's possible, but this does include kind of the core and main ones. I did use this book when I was making my characters. It's a good book. Will the games that I played go to YouTube? Yes, they were all recorded. And most of them have already been uploaded. I just publish one video per day. Good question. Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. I don't even know if I've opened this one before, but this is another D&D book. Let's see what's in this one. It says, explore the Sword Coast in this campaign sourcebook for the world's greatest role-playing game. Ooh, this has a pantheon. Religious institutions. Dead and resurrected gods. The afterlife. Baldur's Gate. So Baldur's Gate is an official D&D location? I heard Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out fairly soon. We could maybe play that, who knows? Candlekeep. The Great Library. So this seems like it talks about locations in the world that are established. It also talks about, yeah, there's Dragonspear Castle, the Halfway Inn, Heartsvale, Troll Claws, the Fields of the Dead. Ooh, that sounds ominous and scary. Icewind Dale is north. You're very ready for the game. People and laws in this region. It's even got some maps here. There's a little map there in the corner. And there's a city map. Bonked myself in the head. It's officially out now, is it? Chapter 3, The Races of the Realms. Dwarves. But what kinds of dwarves are there? I'll tell you. There are shield dwarves. There are gold dwarves. There are gray dwarves. There are dwarven deities as well that they worship. The Duragar are gray dwarves. There are elves. There are moon elves. There are sun elves. There are wood elves. There are dark elves. And the elves have their deities as well. There are halflings, which are basically like hobbits. There are half-elves. There are half-orcs. There are tieflings. And it also talks about some classes. Clerics and bards. This is Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Anything that you have a problem with, Xanathar can tell you what to do about it. Is your toaster stuck? Are you having relationship problems? Are you unsure what course to take in life and what to focus on in your personal progress? Xanathar's Guide is to everything. If you have compatibility issues between different hardware pieces in your computer setup, this will tell you how to do it. Let's open this to a page and see what it has. Describing a complex trap. A complex trap has all the elements of a simple trap, plus special characteristics that make the trap a more dynamic threat. Level and threat. A complex trap uses the same level and severity designations that a simple trap does. Trigger. Just like a simple trap, a complex trap has a trigger. Some complex traps have multiple triggers. Initiative. A complex trap takes turns as a creature does, because it functions over a period of time. This part of a trap's description tells whether the trap is slow, fast, or very fast. Creating a rival. Example rivals. Roll a 1d10. Or sorry, a 1d20. We rolled a 20. This is a rival example for 20. A corrupt official worried that recent misdeeds will be revealed. What could those misdeeds be? You have to make it up yourself. This is an imagination game. Are there trapdoor spiders? Probably. Am I going to be playing Baldur's Gate 3? So, is it on Steam? When is it out? Someone said it's already out. I don't know. Religious surface complications. You have offended a priest through your words or actions. Blasphemy is still blasphemy. even if you did it by accident. A secret sect in the temple offers you membership. Another temple tries to recruit you as a spy. The temple elders implore you to take up a holy quest. You accidentally discover that an important person in the temple is a fiend worshipper. This has different items, cantrips, paladin spells, flame arrows, holy weapons, ice knife spells. This has spells and items and places and people. That's why it's the guide to everything. So those are all the D&D books that I have. Here's a book that I have not read. This is from Kukyo. This is Robert A. Heinlein, Requiem. Maybe someone has read this book. I have not. I inherited this from Kukyo. I'll put this down in the unread section. I'll put the last name of the author as well. Tao Te Ching. Wow. Oh, sweet. This one has notes from Kukyo as well. He underlined certain things and he wrote some things in the margins. Question for the chat. Are you the kind of person who likes doing this for certain books, or do you think it's sacrilege? Some people have strong opinions about this. Don't write in the book. You ruined the book. Some people say it's cool to write in the book. It allows you to kind of lay out your own thought process with this. He has an asterisk point here. I do not always personally agree with Lao Tzu's suggestions. For instance, I do not believe in keeping a people ignorant in order to keep it docile. He disagrees with part of the book. The Tao is the hidden fabric of reality, of the universe, in some ways analogous to the ether, or the missing pieces of the standard model, Higgs boson, etc., that give rise to fundamental causality. I'm being figurative. I miss Kukyo. I wrote some notes in here too, from when I read this. It's kind of hard to read, maybe. It's kind of out of focus. But I write in caps. His is more kind of scribbly on the side. It's cute. It makes it has individuality. You don't do it, but you support those who do it. Your GF does it. Nice. What's up, Mr. Astronomy? I'll just read this page for you because it has some text and then I wrote some notes on it. The highest form of goodness is like water. Water knows how to benefit all things without striving with them. It stays in places loathed by all men. Therefore it comes near the Tao. In choosing your dwelling, know how to keep to the ground. In cultivating your mind, know how to dive in the hidden deeps. I put introspection next to that. In dealing with others, know how to be gentle and kind. I wrote peace. In speaking, know how to keep your words. Patience. In governing, know how to maintain order. I wrote organization. In transacting business, know how to be efficient. I wrote kaizen. In making a move, know how to choose the right moment. I wrote timing. If you do not strive with others, you will be free from blame. I wrote opponents or teachers, reference points, human beings. And then I wrote, the ultimate competition is the cultivation of a better you. I like reading ancient wisdom books like these and then trying to translate them into terms that apply to what you're facing in your own life. As for holding to fullness, far better were it to stop in time. Keep on beating and sharpening a sword, and the edge cannot be preserved for long. Fill your house with gold and jade, and it can no longer be guarded. Set store by your riches and honor, and you will only reap a crop of calamities. Here is the way of heaven. When you have done your work, retire. I said it's a race to attain and achieve versus contentment and satisfaction. This book is pretty cool because it has it in the, I guess this is Chinese. Forgive my ignorance. I think it's Chinese. And then it has English on the other side. Kukio wrote on this page. What's up, Marco Yolo? That's the Tao Te Ching. I have read this one. Oh, a classic. I recommend this book to lots of people. Steven Pinker, How the Mind Works. This one is very straightforward in describing, as the title suggests, how the mind works, but it's written to a layperson. You don't need to be someone who's a brain science major to comprehend this book. He puts it in good terms, gives lots of examples, and it draws on a lot of just the fundamentals of how evolutionary psychology works, how humans became as smart as they are over time, and what our advantages are and disadvantages as a species. It's got some cool pictures and stuff too. I highlighted stuff in this. It looks like it's see-through. That's funny, because of the green screen. It's a forest highlighter. You highlight it and it looks like the forest. This is a yellow highlighter. Apparently my green screen is also a yellow screen. I highlighted this. The mind is a collection of modules, a system of organs, or a society of experts. This talks a lot about the aim for the brain to not only solve problems, but to do so in an energy efficient way. Because in a state of nature, our food is limited. This whole like grocery store meta is very new. In the past, you had to hunt and gather to survive, which was a daily struggle. We still struggle daily, but in different ways. We have surplus of food available to us, basically. But for the history of our evolution, for our brains, the food intake was limited, which means the brain does take some shortcuts that give us the right answer most of the time, but not all of the time. And that's a really important step towards self-awareness, is understanding how your mind can lead you astray in a natural way. So it doesn't mean that your brain is doing something wrong per se, or that it's malfunctioning. It's more so that your brain is functioning for a different meta. We're in the grocery store meta now. Before, it used to be the go outside and pick berries so you can survive, or go hunt this deer with a few other people kind of meta. It's very different. Another thing that's kind of related to this is people being upset that they're forgetting things. The brain is also optimized to delete most of what it processes throughout the day. You don't remember every second of every day that you live. At least the vast majority of people don't. There are a few rare exceptions of people who have atypical psychology. But for the vast majority of us, deleting information that is not relevant to survival is a normal and healthy part of what the brain does. Another one. Robert Mason's book called Weapon. This was given to me, but I have not read it yet. Maybe someone here has read it. I'll put this on the list of unread. Weapon by Robert Mason. Why do you think it is that we put up with being told / forced to live as though resources are strictly limited, while a very small group of people actively keep people down with minimum wage and developing world slavery still being tolerated, etc.? People are oftentimes selfish, and people with power want to increase that power. And for you to have a great deal of power means that you probably need to take some power from other people. So the people who have the power don't want to give it up. They don't want to have less power. They want to have more power, or at least maintain the same level of power. So why would they give up some of what they have for people they don't know? It goes against survival instincts. If you think about it from the rich person's perspective, for them to choose to give someone something as a gift or just to share better, that makes sense if they really know the person and they value them and they feel like it's a good investment. But if it's someone who's a total and complete stranger, they're not going to feel that emotional pull toward, I'm really rich, I should help the poor. One of the things that is, I guess, preventing people from doing that freely is you also don't know how other people are going to utilize those resources. Because if you have extra resources and you give them to other people and they're wasteful with them, then that makes you feel really bad. Like you gave that to someone who then squandered them. So I can empathize with the people who want to basically keep the stuff that they have because they don't trust other people. There are people who absolutely will take a $20 bill that you give them and they will purchase illegal drugs and just use the drugs and not even get food. That is a thing that happens. So figuring out how to fix these systems where people get into these pitfalls and catch that before it happens, and then also give people on-ramps to basically make a living for themselves and to be able to live. That's absolutely an effort that we should make progress on. But to me, it makes complete sense why the people who have lots of resources are going to try to maintain those and increase those. That one reminds you of Tom Clancy. Have you read that book, Dabulous, or just the cover of it looks that way? Okay. I'm going to go get another stack of books. Give me a minute. That is half of the bottom shelf. What's up, Cronibus? Oh, here's a big stack. It's a set. This is called The Romance of Three Kingdoms. One of the most timeless and famous classics. Lu Guanzhong. And I have read through some of the first one. Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Who has read this? It comes in 3 volumes. And I used a napkin as a bookmark and doodled on it. Nice. The world under heaven, after a long period of division, tends to unite. After a long period of union, tends to divide. The Han dynasty is failing. The rebels and warlords fight each other for the hegemony in China. Who will bring peace to these lands? Romance of the Three Kingdoms, written by Lu Guanzhong in the 14th century, is one of the 4 great Chinese classical novels. Discover it in this new edition with maps and footnotes. I have read through about a quarter of the first one. Has anyone read these? You wrote it. You love those kingdoms. Nice. Beelzebubs. Apoptosis gave me this book. It's a little one. It's kind of like a comic, basically. It is a comic. And it's about, like, black metal characters. It's really cool. They have a music video, too. Maybe a few of them. I think it's also a band. It's got maps and pictures. This one's cool. Neuromancer. This one I inherited from Kukyo. It's by William Gibson. I have not read this. I will put this on the unread list and you can maybe vote for me to read it. Have you read Neuromancer? Maybe. Maybe not. You should read that, says Moss. Femivar says it's very good. You've heard good things about it. Alright. Second Foundation by Isaac Asimov. Another inherited book from Kukyo. I have not read this one either. Putting this on the list. This is The Portable Dante, The Divine Comedy Complete, and also The New Life. Another inherited book from Kukyo. Half-price books, this is $2.98. Have you read The First Foundation? I have not. It might be in this bookshelf, I'm not sure. There's an Ace of Hearts here. As a bookmark, I guess. So far, you've only read Neuromancer and all the D&D books I have. You've heard the Foundation series is good. I've not read it. Dante, Divine Comedy, I've not read. Let's get some more. All right, This one has some personal notes for me. Not all of them are books. This one is the BlizzCon 2018 book. So long ago. These are the before times. Scientific name is Icarus Asmodeus. I know this guy. He doesn't work for Blizzard anymore. Mr. Morheim. President and Chief Executive Officer. Or at least he was. BlizzCon. Keynote address. 2018. What was coming out in 2018? Look, there's StarCraft in it. Oh man, do you remember when Blizzard made StarCraft stuff? That was a while ago. You are not prepared. Oh, this is for like Burning Crusade launch or something? Wow. I did not play N64 StarCraft. Oh, does this have some pro gamers in it? StarCraft pros? I don't know if that's StarCraft, don't recognize it. StarCraft Brood War. Picture of Savior playing. Kerrigan statue, let's go. Goodie bags. Cosplay stuff. Esports. Tyrael Diablo 3 statue. Loktar Ogar. Orc riding wolf. BlizzCon 2018. Before all the drama. This book. This has notes from the first D&D campaign that I hosted on this channel. It was called Age of Anthems. Does anyone remember Age of Anthems? Raise your hand. Age of Anthems ran for... how many episodes? I could check my YouTube playlist, actually. Eight episodes. So, Age of Anthems. I'm going to show you real quick. This is like pre-Wayfarers.
From dungeons and dragons to mountains and seas, to cities of old, to ruins and trees, is the age of anthems of battle and song, cracking thunder and ice, the wrestle of right and wrong. Welcome to the unfolding untold story. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? You know me.
I have the Blue Yeti still.
For now, I am a nameless bard, and I am joined by Apoptosis, also known as Cracklewolf, Chibmihari, also known as Mela,
Back when Apop had long hair and it wasn't red.
also known as Bryn.
Nice. Man, looking at my early D&D stuff, it just felt so awkward. I'm glad that Jimothy became the intro man. Jimothy does great. Give it up for Jimothy. Thanks, Jimothy. That campaign didn't end up panning out. We had like multiple no-shows last second for the series. So that was pretty much a no-go, because if you have all the players show up and they clear their schedule for that time and then there's a last second no-show, it can happen every now and then, but I think it happened like 4 times. So we ended up not moving forward with that, and then we started Wayfarers. Apop was not the dungeon master of that campaign. He became the dungeon master of Wayfarers. And this book is the just character notes that I had from this. Apop's character was a goblin swashbuckler, a captain of the sea. 2 hands full of cold steel and a leg of wood. I wrote lots of like rhymes and raps because my character was a bard. Yeah, so just a notebook for me. This one is from college. UTD. Well, you can kind of read it if I hold it at this angle. University of Texas at Dallas. This is where I went to school. I wrote all kinds of very personal stuff in this one. This is, it's called The Examined Life is how I formatted this. These notes are from 2010, when I was 21 years old. I wrote about my characteristics, my physical attributes, my mental attributes, the activities that I did. Majority of free time spent online at the computer. At least I was self-aware about that. Late sleep-wake cycle. I would sleep from 4 a.m. to noon. Still kind of do that. Drink socially, THC regularly. I was currently single at this time. I'm not involved in church. My prayer was irregular. Almost 0 study time cramming only. Naughty. Neuro character sheet. Write about my family. I played Han with my brother. My roommate at the time. I wrote about Kukyo in here. I wrote that he broadens my existential thought while sharpening my speaking ability and my skeptical attitude. If you think that I have good speechcraft, if you think that the way that I talk is eloquent, he was my mentor for that. The thing that I really internalized from talking with him was he was able to slow down his speech whenever he was thinking about what he was saying. And he could also take his time if he knew that what he was saying was important and he didn't want to rush it so people would miss information. A lot of people who were maybe high performing in school or whatever would be really in a hurry and just talk as fast as possible and stuff. And he was very, very smart, but he was able to slow himself down to be able to communicate effectively with others. Naven is written about in here. Ah, Soupy Lol. You might have seen him in Twitch chat. I wrote about him in here. Vape Nation, y'all. You're wondering if I played Han. I did. Am I reading a mirror? No, this is a notebook. Why do I play video games? Immediate application of higher order cognitive functioning and manual dexterity. I like that you use your brain and speed of hand when you do this. Social interaction. Sense of worth and value via achievement. Huh. 2011, I had the goal to find a church family. Purchase my graduation tickets, immediate tasks. Send graduation announcements. Oh, nice. Cognitive science class notes. Thank you for justifying my video game playing for me. But if you communicate effectively, how are you supposed to win against the players? With teamwork and camaraderie. Development of the nervous system, chapter 3. Ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. This one has some like legit... This is like third year brain science stuff. Third or fourth year. It's really interesting to see kind of what my goals were back then. This would have been right as my spirituality and stuff was waning with Christianity. But when I still had the goal to try to revive it. Are you playing hard on Brood War? I've played Brood War exactly one time in my life. This one, I have manila folders here from the Twitch Ambassador Summit. Whenever I was onboarded as a Twitch Ambassador, they had some workshops where they were kind of helping us to define ourselves and define our brand in a way that we could articulate what makes us unique and why our content has value. Because one of the things about Twitch is anyone can stream as long as their computer can handle it and they have internet that can upload. But since basically anyone could stream with those criteria satisfied, how do you distinguish yourself and what makes your content valuable and competitive? So they asked some questions. What do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? What is one thing that sets you apart from the rest? What makes you unique? I put theatrical skill and psychology knowledge. I thought that was a really fun weekend. This one, I don't know how I still have this. For some reason, this ended up in my hands. This is not mine. These are my brother's piano teacher's notes from 2003. I don't know if Nightmare is here, but these are his piano teacher's notes from literally 20 years ago. At some point, this ended up in my book area, and I have carried this with me from Texas to Canada to Washington to Texas back to Washington. So this notebook has gone a long way. And if he ever needs to brush up on his piano, I've got this. I don't know why I have this, but I have this. Do you have a penchant for theater? I did musical theater in college. Was DJ Wheat a part of the summit? I don't believe he works with the ambassador program, so no. I have met DJ Wheat and hung out with him a bit at In Control's funeral. He's the same age as you. This book is called Unflattening by Nick Susanis. I have not read this. This is inherited from Kukyo. It's got crazy pictures and stuff. It's basically comic book format. Has anyone read this? Unflattening. I have not. It looks cool. I'll put this in the unread. Unflattening. Principles and Practice of Electronic Music. I should give this to Fuzzy Chord. By Gilbert Tritol. A fundamental approach to understanding the new sound sources covering both the technical and creative aspects of sound synthesis. When was this written? This looks old as fuck. Excuse my language. $1973. Super old. Wow. Basic acoustics. Standpipe with high pressure water flows in. Resistance is measured in ohms, kiloohms, and megohms. Active mixer and oscillator. Inputs, amps. Gain and master output. This has got diagrams for how electronic music works at a fundamental level. And this is one of those books that just smells old. Another inherited from Kukyo book. And that is the bottom shelf. Smells of ancient beeps and boops. All right, next one. Ella Enchanted. Kind of a romance book. I did read this one. Pretty good. It's actually kind of dark in many senses. The main character is basically cursed and abused. Ender's Game. This is by Orson Scott. I have not read this book. I'll put this on the list. Orson Scott. Feel free to yell at me if I've not read this, and I should have. Flatland. This is basically an advanced math book. This and Flatterland. They talk a lot about shapes and different mathematical dimensions that could hypothetically exist. I have read this. This is good. It was actually a really interesting book. It seems like it would be really dry and boring, but it's very good. Orson Scott Card is kind of a douche canoe, but it's a classic. A douche canoe. How would you describe him? He's a bit of a douche canoe. Okay. Steven Pinker, The Blank Slate. I have not read this one. It is very highlighted. I'll put this on the list. The Whole Brain Catalog. Anxious, funky mood? Think you're going crazy? This is for you. This is inherited from Kukyo. The future will judge us as either heroes or fools. Ecology of Mind, the Birth of a Movement. I have not read this. This is another inherited by Kukio book. It looks pretty wild, like the way the pages are organized. It's not just written word, it's also got a bunch of pictures. Narcissism is the fast food of the soul. There's nudity. Booba. Huh. Interesting. You remember now how the internet doesn't like him? I don't know why exactly. This book is called Zen by Miriam Levering and Lucian Strike. I have browsed through this one, but I haven't done like a full read through. And this one's formatted in a pretty interesting way. It's got text on one side and a picture on the other side. And basically the picture is meant to be a sort of companion to the text on one side. And you're supposed to take it slow, where you read one page and you kind of think about it, look at the picture, think about it, think about your life, get a drink of water, go to the restroom, think about it some more, that kind of a thing. So it's not a narrative story or whatever that you follow along. Let's just pick a random page. Some of these are very abstract. I make my home in the mountains. You ask why I live alone in the mountain forest, and I smile and I'm silent until even my soul grows quiet. It lives in the other world, one that no one owns. The peach trees blossom, the water continues to flow. Li Po. This is written between the year 701 and 762. It's a poem in a picture of a forest that is green screened with a forest behind it. It's a forest inception. It's a very interesting picture. Thank you. Oh, this one has rocks. In this world of dreams, drifting off still more, and once again speaking and dreaming of dreams, just let it be. This is from the year 1800. And there are rocks. Amazing. What's the one before Zen called? Adbuster's Whole Brain Catalog. Flatland. I guess I have another one of these, but it's a different book. Same story, but an additional instance of paper. That is part of the mid shelf. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I bought this book thinking it would helped me be awesome, and it made me really upset, and I decided not to continue reading it. It's so mean and cruel. It was highly reviewed by some people online. I'll read you some. Law 1. Never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please or impress them, don't go too far in displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite, inspire fear and insecurity. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Law 5. So much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but take the credit. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. Law 10. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Law 11. Learn how to keep people dependent on you. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This is such an evil book. It's so evil. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. This is so yikes. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Law 15. Crush your enemies totally. That's a given. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Well, I'm really shooting myself in the foot with this subathon then, aren't I? Literally written by Sauron. The book's alignment is lawful evil. Absolutely. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. It's like shamelessly super evil. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Jeez. Yeah, this is a book that I heard was like really good or something, so I bought it, and then I started reading it and I stopped. I was like, this is horrible. This is not the kind of person I want to be. What should I do with this book? Because I don't want to give this to someone, and I don't want to read it either. What do you do in this situation? In the preface it says, the feeling of having no power over people and events is generally unbearable to us. Dude, I don't need power over people. I just want power over myself. Jeez Louise. Who wrote this? Robert Greene. Jeez. Cast it into the fires of Mount Doom. I can send it your way, you'll put it on your coffee table. Feed it to Dark Neuro. Well, I haven't finished this book. I tried, and as soon as I read the names of the chapters, I didn't read it. Spunk and Bite, a writer's guide to bold contemporary style. Arthur Plotnick. I didn't read this one, but whenever I was kind of thinking up the idea of my convergent sci-fi project, someone recommended this to me to kind of develop my writing style. So this is one of those that I should read to improve my writing ability, but I haven't read it yet. I'll put that in the to-read list. I'm not going to put the 48 Laws of Power in the to-read list. Thanks for the evil bedtime story. Love it. Rapper 50 Cent stated that he related to the book immediately and approached Green with the prospect of potential collaboration, which would later become the 50th Law, another New York Times bestseller. Huh. A Sense of Style by Steven Pinker. The Thinking Person's Guide to Writing in the 21st Century. Another one of those books that should improve my writing ability, but I've not read. A Sense of Style. Carl Sagan's Cosmos. I read this one. This is good. This is a really nice science overview. If you want to just get a general sense of like the big picture of cosmology, outer space, Big Bang, planets formed, shit like that, this is very good, very relatable. Carl Sagan is very readable. Did anyone watch his TV series, Cosmos? This is a good one, would recommend. The Language Instinct. Oh, I am a quarter of the way through this one, but I have not finished it. How the Mind Creates Language by Steven Pinker. If you like Carl Sagan, you gotta read Death by Black Hole by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'll put it in my Amazon. The Language Instinct. This one is Death by Black Hole. Project Girl by Janet MacDonald. No. I like science stuff. Analyzing Intelligence, Origins, Obstacles, and Innovations. Robert Z. George and James B. Bruce. A personal note was in the beginning of this book. The Art of Strategy and Intelligence. Analytical vulnerabilities. So this isn't analyzing like the brain. This is like CIA intelligence, like acquiring intelligence about peoples and places and so on. I have not read this. Good book, might be unrelatable though. What's it about? Voltaire Candide, a classic. People have said that I look like Voltaire. I have not read this, though. I don't think. Huh. This is a Kukio inherited book. The Black Science, Ancient and Modern Techniques of Ninja Mind Manipulation. This was recommended to me for basically trying to out-strategize people in StarCraft. Tailoring your attack by using specific keys to each individual's mind. So it's very much figuring out how to exploit how people are thinking and acting. Interrogate using unbeatable psychological methods. This one is a little bit mystical, in a sense. I wouldn't say it was a defining book for me. I did read through it. It's got a little bit of the woo, like Eastern spirituality-ish stuff. Pseudoscience. It does have some cool stuff in it. Like, this is a quote that I highlighted. Goad your foe into attacking before he's ready, and you will always gain the advantage. The 5 fatal flaws for a general are arrogance, fear, being quick to anger, concern over losing face and honor, and being overly sympathetic. Ninja warriors were trained to think on their feet, to improvise rather than to adhere to a rigid game plan. Makoto is a balanced state of mind, allowing us to remain calm even in the most trying of circumstances. So this book, I would say, had some good stuff in it and some stuff that I would say is pretty bunk. So, a mixed bag. Elements of Poker. I read this one. Tommy Angelo. I would like to dedicate this book to all the people who have told me that I should write a book. That's big. I highlighted some things in this. It talks about how long to have a practice session. The author says, shorter than an hour is fine, longer than an hour might be fine, but longer than 2 hours is never fine. If you want to take a break, remove yourself physically from the game and also mentally. Focus your mind on something you can see or hear, or on some part of your body. What's critical is that you stop the poker thinking, even if it's only for a few seconds. A game, B game, and C game. This is one of the things that I talk about with stream that I learned from the poker scene. Being able to identify when you're playing at your sharpest and fastest and most calm, when you're playing your average, and then when you're playing like shit, and how all of those are part of you. A lot of people will only mentally identify with their A game, and they'll think that that's them, and they will think that their B game is unfair and wrong, and their C game is something else is even more wrong. But all of those are you. And if you really want to improve, you want to figure out how to make your C game less garbage, how to keep tuning up your B game and making it better, and how to make your A game shine even more. The previous book was called The Black Science by Dr. Ha Lung and Christopher B. Prowant. Disu. It was an interesting read. Not 100% value the whole way through, but had some good stuff in it. Running good and running bad. Ooh, this one. This is such a good quote. The professional does not run good or run bad. He does not pleasure himself or torture himself with arbitrary time frames and accounting. He just plays. This is me right now with my Dota MMR. I swung from Ancient 3 and I'm down at Legend 5. But I'm not rustled because I know that downswings happen and there's a lot for me to work on, so who cares about the short-term rank? I don't. I just play. I learned this from poker. Poker books are big. I really like poker books. Even if you don't play, it has so much about emotional management. Point 90. Be the house. When you play poker at a casino, pretend you are the poker room manager and that your pay is a flat percentage of the total revenue, and that when you play with your own money, and no one knows you're the manager. To your opponents, you are just another poker player. To you, you are a greedy, heartless bastard trying to suck every cent you can out of the game, twice. And as a player, and as the house. Number of tables to play in online poker. The chat box. Notes to self. Comparing internet poker and table poker. Fluctuation in cash games. This was pretty good. This wasn't my top 2 poker books, but I would say this is maybe like rank 3. Stephen Hawking, Black Holes and Baby Universes and Other Essays. I have read this one. This is fun. Thanks, Stephen Hawking. Very smart dude. I really think it's awesome that Stephen Hawking existed in a time where technology could allow him to still communicate his massive intelligence to the world. If he existed 300 years in the past with his condition, he wouldn't have been able to contribute anywhere close to as much. But because they figured out how to let him continue to communicate, he continued to be one of the amazing geniuses of all time. Thanks, modernity. Hawking liked strippers. Turns out Hawking was still a mammal, even though he was very smart. Booba. Neil Stephenson's Cryptonomicon. I inherited this from Kukio. I have not read this. I'll put this on the list. Cryptonomicon. Is this related to something else? Necronomicon? That's a Dota item. On Intelligence by Jeff Hawkins. I read this one. How a new understanding of the brain will lead to the creation of truly intelligent machines. From the inventor of the original Palm Pilot. This guy made a phone thingy, therefore, he knows about the future of AI. This talks about memory. It kind of compares a lot of what human brains do to what computers can do. Pretty good book. A Bestiarity of the Cryptic. Could be. You read Cryptonomicon, but you don't remember much about it. Bismuth says it's the best. How did they shrink down the pilots? All right, and that is the mid-shelf. This is the certificate of registration of my book, The Path, The Gamer's Guide to Mastery. Use the book command in the chat. But this says this certificate issued under the seal of the Copyright Office in accordance with Title 17 United States Code attests that registration has been made for the work identified below. The information on this certificate has been made a part of the Copyright Office records. Signed by the Acting United States Register of Copyrights and Director. Registered the book in 2018. That way no one can say that it was theirs. It was mine. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I have not read this. Top tier science fiction, you say? Okay, well that's on the list to vote for stuff for me to read. Howl's Moving Castle, the book. I have seen the anime. I have not read the book. She's brilliant. She's second only to Tolkien. This is very high praise. I'm interested. Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. I've not read this. Dune by Frank Herbert. I have read this twice. Maybe even Tide, you're reading her now? What are you reading of her now? Terry Goodkind is amazing. This is a Agent Smith recommendation. It's called American Nations. A History of the 11 Rival Regional Cultures of North America. The Left Coast, the Far West, El Norte, which is like northern Mexico, New France, which is around Louisiana, Deep South, Greater Appalachia, the Midlands, Yankeedom, New France, and New Netherland and Tidewater. So really early North America, US kind of history stuff. Have not read this. Tomb of Atuan, Part of Earthsea. Are those two separate books? I'll add this to my cart. Tomb of Atuan. Tombs of Atuan 2? Why does it say 2? Volume 2. Book 2. What's the first one? Part of the Earthsea? Read the first chapter of American Nations and you won't be able to put it down. Huh. Tombs of Atuan 2, Electric Boogaloo. Have you read Name of the Wind? No. Earthsea trilogy. Oh, is this it? Huh. Okay. J.R.R. Tolkien, The Silmarillion. Boom. I have read this. This is very good. If you like the big, deep lore of Lord of the Rings stuff, this goes way back in time and talks about the origins of his mythos and all that kind of stuff. The gods that made the world, I guess God, and then the Valar and so forth. Very good. I have multiple versions of this. I like the Silmarillion a lot. I couldn't finish it whenever I was 13. It was too slow. But I read it when I was in my late 20s, and then I read it again. If you're into good fantasy, you should try out Mistborn. Earthsea is to Lord of the Rings as Tomb of Atuan is to the Two Towers. Yeah, so you should get the trilogy then, if you want to get invested in that. Pilgrim's Progress. Christian book. I don't think I've read this yet. Recommended by my mother. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Master your mind and defy the odds. I think someone from stream recommended this to me, or it might have been Avid, the guy who got me to do the burpee challenge. But apparently David Goggins is like a super badass. I've not read this. Added that to the vote list. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. Was a recommendation from stream, I think? I have not read this. Have you read the Wheel of Time series yet? I have not. Mind Gym, an athlete's guide to inner excellence. Mindset for success. Stuff like that. Be here now. Presence of mind. That one's good. Which one? To Sleep in a Sea of Stars? No One Like Him. 10 Ways God is Different from Us. This was given to me by, I believe, an aunt? My aunts or uncles? It's like an interactive Christian book. This was given to me fairly recently because I have left the fold, and potentially this book could bring me back. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? The psalmist too marvels. Who is like the Lord our God, who is seated on high, who looks far down on the heavens and on the earth? Psalm 113, 5-6. And of course, is no one. Creation existing within the limits of time and space cannot rival, much less fully articulate, the splendors of a limitless God. What is your emotional response to the knowledge that God cannot be measured? That I need to purchase a larger measuring stick? Have you attempted to take the measure of God? What limits have you placed on his character or will? I've gotten stuck on the problem of, can he heat up a burrito so hot that he himself cannot eat it? What God-given limitation or boundary do you most want to rebel against? How is that boundary for your good? For God's glory? There you go. Choose your own Christ venture. Trey Dude, are you still practicing Christian, or has that ship sailed? Alright, we got some huge ones here. This one is a Kukio inherited book. M.C. Escher. Escher is like really trippy mathematical types of stuff. Hopefully none of this is TOS, by the way. I didn't check this ahead of time. It's just his art. He's an artist. It might have some brief descriptions of things, but it is an art book. He does a lot of stuff with stairs going in directions that stairs normally should not. More stairs going in different ways. The reflection in a pool with a fish. Taschen portfolio. The Times Atlas of the Second World War. This is one that I should let Mr. Agent Smith take a crack at. Look at this timeline. This is organized by region. So each of these bands going down is a different region of the world. And then from top to bottom, it goes month by month of what happened in each of those regions during that year. Western Europe in January. On the 14th, there was a Casablanca conference. On the 5th of March, there was the first flight of the Gloucester meteor jet. March 2nd to 4th, the Germans defeat Russian 3rd Tank Army at Kharkov. March 2nd, 1943, the German withdrawal in Tunisia. Rommel leaves the Africa Corps. March 13, the Chinese push the Japanese back over the river Yangtze. Does it have maps too? Let me see. Does it say anything about Zionism's connection to the war? It probably says stuff about Israel. I haven't read this. I'm having cosplay problems. Look at these maps, bro. The Marianas, June to August 1944. Cool. Lots of pictures in this one. Got another stack. Maps are cool, true. High school yearbook, bro. I wrote X-Toll. It's kind of hard to read. X-Toll. That was one of my favorite bands at the time, and I wrote it in bold, squiggly letters. And then people signed it in silver permanent marker. I got my friends to sign it. This is the back of it. More people signed it. Oh man, the nostalgia. There was also another like 2 pages of people signing stuff. I got people to sign all this. Look at these notes. Kind of hard to read because it's yellow. Here's a random one. Austin, you are one crazy fun guy, and I will miss our dinosaur noises and Zen yoga moments. Austin, keep playing Halo and have fun beating Shaheen. Sharon said, rock on, dollface. Thanks for saving my ass in English second semester. I don't remember what I did. Eek, it's you, Christian metal rules. Another high school yearbook. This one's nice. Look how nice this is. Probably shouldn't show people's real names from high school, but back in like middle school, high school, I wasn't really muscular yet. I wouldn't say that I was like a shrimpy kid, but I was very normal proportions. And I also wasn't grown into a man until I was like 18. I think that's when I actually started to be my full-size self. So in high school, there were some like super dudes who were basically fully developed when they were 14. And I still had acne and was being awkward. My grades were good though. I don't know why I have this, but this is a picture from my dad's master's college graduation. I don't know how this got into my possession. This is kind of in the category of my brother's piano book. I think this must have like gone into my stuff at some point. Here's another picture of him shaking the dude's hand whenever he has his gown and everything on. You're great, Dad. I don't know why I have this. Should probably give it back at some point. That's a fantastic thing to keep, though. It's in good shape. Relativity and the special and general theory. Albert Einstein. A clear explanation that anyone can understand. I don't think I've read through this all the way yet. I want to see what this bookmark is. It's a receipt for something. Half-price books. The clerk was Jason. This is from 1998. It was a $23 purchase, paid in cash. Okay. Doubt. StarCraft. Prima's official strategy guide. This is for StarCraft 1. Prima's secrets of the games. Detailed maps. The Inside Scoop. Chapter 2. The Terran Force. The Terran should hold a special place in your heart, if for no other reason that they are our humanoid cousins. If you play the game from start to finish, your first 10 missions will be Terran controlled, and give you a solid understanding of the mechanics and strategies you need to survive in StarCraft. Ground units. Marine. Armor is light, hit points are 40, ground attack damage is 6, air attack is 6, attack range is 4, gas required is 0. I love this kind of stuff. Unit stats. The Battlecruiser. Armor is heavy, hit points 500, ground attack 25, air attack 25. If you're looking for an expensive unit, put the Battlecruiser at the top of the list. It's also quite possibly the Terran's most powerful unit, so often the cost is worth it. The Battlecruiser is usually used as a primary weapon in a larger attack force, especially if it has the Yamato gun. The Battlecruiser can meet an early demise if let unprotected against a group of enemy air units or a large group of missile turrets, so always keep a couple protective wraiths nearby. There should be something about Montag the Hero Firebat. I like that a lot of people have this one. Oh, look at this. It's the Warcraft 3 tech trees. Just a little pamphlet of this. How to get the different tech buildings for human, orc, undead, and night elf. This was just in there. This is just thoughts and musings. It's a picture of a bunny, and then I wrote down different stuff that I consider to be worth remembering. What appears clean from far away may be dirty. Take a closer look. One page just says, do your research. Take time, create a surround, do the Moses. The Moses is when you hit them from two sides. Fight hard for those you love. Downswings happen, take them with grace. You'll swing back up. When you do swing down, remember another swing is on the way. Be keen, compassionate, learn daily, and stay humble. Fortune favors the bold. Courage is action in the face of fear. I choose to risk. Life is short. Your mind plays tricks on you. Some delusions feel good to hold, but you'll be better without them. Just some random musings that I had from many years ago. This one is an old calendar from me. From when I lived in Austin, Texas. A Boy and His Lunch. This is a book that my grandfather wrote. It's a story of a youngster venturing down to the fringe of a lake and reflecting upon the amazing events of a day long ago. The consequences of Christian faith is that we become God's handiwork, changed, charged, and enabled to accomplish the good deeds for which He has designed us. God, the master weaver, causes circumstances, events, and relationships to intertwine in a marvelous tapestry of His handiwork. Author and poet, Kenneth G. Old. So this guy was one of the biggest influences on my life, in my life, I guess. He's the one who taught me about how when you're in a very losing position in chess, going for a stalemate is the closest you can get to a win condition. He also encouraged us to climb trees and just kind of be boys and take risks outside and chop wood, start fires, Like, he was that kind of encouraging voice. And he was also a very loving person who would invite anyone into his home. Any traveler or whatever, even if he didn't really know them, he would invite them in, make tea for them, make food for them, that kind of thing. So a very loving person. Very Christian. That was a very core part of his faith. And I would say, of the Christians I've known, probably one of the most Christ-like when it comes to being self-sacrificing and loving of others. He also received some award from the Queen of England, but he didn't show it in his home. We ended up getting it after he passed away, but he didn't showcase it. In golf, if you don't stop your downswing, it turns into an upswing. Is that a metaphor? I don't really know golf stuff too much, so when I'm talking about upswings and downswings, I hope you don't take that as golfing advice. Because that might not work. Hope you meant campfires? Yeah, that's what I meant. Do your research is not the same for all people. True. Robert A. Heinlein, Friday. Wow, the cover's got some, like, side booba. Jeez. The Triumphant Natural Bestseller. I've not read this. We'll put this to the list. I think that's another Heinlein book. Okay. The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Have not read this. He was the most loving arsonist I ever knew. Lol. I start this fire out of love. If you have cool books, is there a place to share them on Discord? You can just put them in general chat right now. Since we're on topic, if you want to recommend something. You can recommend it and then say why you recommend it, maybe. StarCraft, Prima's official strategy guide. Looks like the same thing, but it's a smaller version. StarCraft expansion set for Brood War. Prima's official strategy guide. Daily Light. These are like excerpt Bible verses for each day of the year, the calendar year. Let's see what the Bible verse is for today. Today is July the 9th. Very thin pages. July the 9th, it's evening. There's a morning side and an evening side. The day will declare it. Judge nothing before the time, until the Lord comes, who will both bring light to the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsels of the hearts. Then each one's praise will come from God. Why do you judge your brother? Or why do you show contempt for your brother? For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. So then each of us shall give account of himself to God. Therefore, let us not judge one another anymore. Wow. God will judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ. The Father judges no one, but has committed all judgments to the Son. He has given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. The great, the mighty God, whose name is the Lord of hosts. You are great in counsel, and mighty in work, for your eyes are open to all the ways of the sons of men, to give everyone according to his ways and according to the fruits of his doings. That's crazy, because I know a lot of people who are very judgy, who are Christian. Maybe we could pass them this verse. Therefore, let us not judge one another. Wow. Crazy. The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. I have not read this. This is a Kukio inherited one. I don't know what this is about. The Maltese Falcon. Jesus lore. The Book of Runes. These are Nordic runes. A warrior's creed. I have no parents. I make the heavens and earth my parents. I have no home. I make awareness my home. I have no life or death. I make the tides of breathing my life and death. I have no divine power. I make honesty my divine power. I have no means. I make understanding my means. I have no magic secrets. I make character my magic secret. I have no body. I make endurance my body. I have no eyes. I make the flash of lightning my eyes. I have no ears. I make sensibility my ears. I have no limbs. I make promptness my limbs. I have no strategy. I make unshadowed by thought my strategy. I have no designs. I make seizing opportunity by the forelock my designs. I have no miracles. I make right action my miracles. I have no principles. I make adaptability to all circumstances my principles. I have no tactics. I make emptiness and fullness my tactics. I have no talents. I make ready wit my talent. I have no friends. I make my mind my friend. I have no enemy. I make carelessness my enemy. I have no armor. I make benevolence and righteousness my armor. I have no castle. I make immovable mind my castle. I have no sword. I make absence of self my sword. This is from an anonymous samurai, 14th century. There's like samurai stuff, but this is mostly Viking runes. I haven't read all of this. This is a Kukio inherited book. The Age of Empathy by Franz de Waal. This talks about the capacity for animals to have feelings and to empathize with other creatures, to laugh and to cry and stuff. And it's looking a lot at the behavior of apes, but this was a pretty interesting one. It's called Nature's Lessons for a Kinder Society, or I guess that's a subtitle. I have read this one. Empathy needs a face. This does talk too about things like mirror neurons and how a big part of us practicing empathy is getting to see the other person and seeing their facial reactions to stuff. And this is one of the reasons why gaming has such a problem with toxicity, is because we can't see the actual suffering person on the other side of our vitriol and our venom. When you're really mean and nasty to someone and you don't see them cry or like grimace or whatever, it doesn't give you that feedback loop of, oh wow, I just hurt someone with my words. But you can, and you do that, but we don't have the feedback loop of being able to see their suffering, because that's a natural kind of counterbalance to us just being consistently shitty. Some people will still do that to a person's face, but I think for a lot of people, if they had that feedback loop, they wouldn't be so evil. The Japanese Mind, edited by Roger J. Davies and Osamu Ikeno. Understanding Contemporary Japanese Culture. I have not read this. This is a Kukio inherited one. Male and female relationships in Japan. The spirit of Do. Gambari. Discussion activities. Child rearing practices in Japan. The Japanese virtue of modesty. I've not read this. Footprints in the Dust. This is another book by my grandfather, the same guy who wrote A Boy and His Lunch. It's a journey of poems, so a bunch of different poems. Did he sign the start of this? Your poem, Austin, is 225. God bless you, Gumpa. 225. This is your poem, Austin. It simply says that everything is touched. The writing is hard to read. I don't know. Sacraments. Every breath we breathe meets with a lover's kiss. We take our every step in mists of holiness. We're captives on parade within the temple walls, with every act examined at the altar rails. Schoolboys dragging satchels through bending blades of grass, or lovers gently touching fingers as they pass. The breaking of the bread, the kneading of the dough, the blacksmith's hammer blow before the furnace glow, the child's labored spelling of words by sound and sound, the peasant's paused in pushing plow into the ground, the sowing of the seed, the harvesting of grain, the lying in the sun, the walking in the rain, the milking in the cowshed at the break of day, the aged walker creeping on this painful way. Bargains in the basement or in the banking hall, pennants streaming in the wind, kids out playing ball, the baby's cries of hunger in the answering breast, and then at eventide, for all the sleep of rest. All these are sacraments. God is in them, touching them with dust from heaven, trailing out his glory in every step of man. That's well written. You think you could partially be substituted by simply answering with the sad emoji to insults. When kids are mean to each other, they make them look into each other's face and say and show how they felt about the wrong actions. Huh. That's pretty cool. We just got yelled at by coaches and made to do torture workouts. Zero, The Biography of a Dangerous Idea by Charles Seife. I don't know what this is. I think this is a Kukyo inherited book. It's about voidness, nothingness. Looks like some Eastern philosophy. Looks like the concept of zero. In Search of Schrodinger's Cat, Quantum Physics and Reality. A fascinating and delightful introduction to the strange world of the quantum. I've not read this. We are almost through all of it. You can never take a Scotsman's freedom. Aye. A recurring theme here of I've not read this, you need to read your shelf. That's fair. Point taken. The Mental Game of Poker. This is probably my #1 recommended book for people who play poker or are interested in improving their mental game at anything. It talks about entitlement tilt, risk aversion, running bad, revenge tilt, Basically just a bunch of different situations that can rustle you and cause you to play worse, and why it rustles you, and how you can basically inject logic to counter that line of thinking. I think a lot of people end up being a slave to their impulses in a lot of ways, where they have a strong reaction to something and they don't really contest it in any way. They don't really say, okay, I'm having this reaction. Is this logical? Is this good for me? And where is this coming from? How can I formulate a strategy to handle myself a little bit better? You get to read your books one a week. Yeah, I just need to figure out the time in my workflow. I'm pretty good at reading books when I travel, but that's basically the only time I read regularly. This is a chart of your A game, B game, and C game. Nice Gaussian distribution there. A game is your best decisions, B game is solid decisions, and C game is terrible decisions. Poker isn't the only instance where a range exists. It's everywhere you look, especially in professional sports. Take any player in a major professional sport and evaluate the quality of their skill over a large enough sample, and you'll see a bell curve. Baseball players hit home runs and make diving catches, as well as strike out and make errors. Quarterbacks throw perfect 40-yard passes into tight coverage and then throw terrible interceptions. Soccer players make sharp passes to set up incredible goals and also whiff or shank the ball. There will be times when it feels like you've taken a huge step backward, not progressed at all, or fallen back into old habits. The next time this happens, come back to this section. Emotion is not the problem, it's the key to mastering your game. Spectrum of Emotion. Highly recommend this book. Very good. The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. This is a very good book. It's kind of delivered in a story format. Very fun. From chess to Tai Chi. It's about his personal process of improving and learning and losing and trying to gain a new skill. Dusty books. I have read this one. Gödel Escher Bach. Ooh, I'm over halfway through this one. This is an absolutely massive and dense book by Douglas R. Hofstadter. Super, super, super dense. A lot of the Escher stuff, like Escher, we saw the art book of that guy. Gödel has his incompleteness theorem. This is all very advanced, like math and consciousness and language. This is a heckin' project and a half. This book qualifies as a blunt weapon, yeah. It's a very interesting book. It takes a lot of time to read through. If I can do some unfiltered neuro with you, one thing that I used to do whenever I lived with Kukio in Bremerton, Washington, was smoke a bunch of weed and then read this book for like 2 hours. It was really interesting. Yeah, so I'm over halfway through this, but I have not finished it. J.R.R. Tolkien, Beren and Luthien. This one is within the Silmarillion, but it kind of just captures that story within the book. So if you just wanted the Beren and Luthien shorter form, it's like yay big. It's not a crazy huge book. Gödel Escher Bach, yeah. Very complex. The Better Angels of Our Nature. This is another Steven Pinker book. This is sort of about the overall progress that we've made in society. Here's just a graph here of homicide rates over time from the year 1200 to the year 2000. So, as you can see, they're going down precipitously over a large time scale, One of the things that is confusing for us in the modern world is that now we have HD cameras, video, and the internet. So the amount of negative news and the reporting we have of violence and death and suffering is at an all-time high. But per capita, per person, violence is lower now than it has ever been, pretty much. If you're thinking about a hunter-gatherer society, a lot of times people look to an appeal to nature and they say, wasn't it better back then when we just had our local tribe and we got to hunt and we got to gather and we got to just be real with each other in the moment? No. Back in those times, you were very likely to get raided by a neighboring tribe where whenever you stepped out of your tent in the morning to take a piss, you get shot in the face with an arrow and die. And that was very common. So the death per person was super high back then. Yeah, the noble savage theory is totally bunk. You could get away with all kinds of stuff back then because there was no evidence for anything. There was also no justice system to hold people accountable for stuff. So whenever people are trying to hit you with the scare tactics of everyone's violent and the world's going to shit, people are actually mostly apathetic and indifferent to a lot of stuff that's going on, and they just kind of want to keep to themselves. So this book, I think, is really good at knocking some sense into people about how over the history of humanity and prehistory, we are relatively more chill and more civilized than we were in the past. I remember one of the things in this book, he talks about the gentleman's duel and how that was a thing that was considered, for a certain period of time, an honorable thing, where if someone disrespects your house or your lineage, you challenge them to a duel to the death. And this was something that was a kind of civilized and whatever ritual that would happen. And then over time, century by century, only the people who are kind of loose cannons and assholes would do the duel. And other people would say, like, that's a stupid risk to take for something that's oftentimes much lower level of a offense than you would need to, like, try to kill them. So yeah, over time, we become relatively less violent. Do we still have problems? Absolutely. But try to take that in greater context of, per 100 people, the world has never been this safe. We do still have war, we do still have slavery, we do still have human trafficking, we do still have physical and emotional abuse. So we have a lot of stuff to work on. But relatively speaking, we're doing much better than we were 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. If your leg breaks in nature, you're dead. Yeah. Well, nice. That is the Neuro bookshelf. Oh, I do have one other thing that I can share. It's a little bit redundant, but I was gifted a really, really beautiful set of Tolkien books that I have not unwrapped yet, but I probably should. Are these all going to be invisible? I guess they're dark green enough. But these are all J.R.R. Tolkien, Silmarillion, super nice. I feel like they're so nice that I shouldn't open them, but I should open them because that's what books are for. Should I just open one of these now? Scotland! Should I open this right now? Just say fuck it? I'm not gonna resell these. This is the best copy of Tolkien stuff I have. Do it. No. Yes, please. ASMR stream. Unless you want to read it. Did you know that Sit has all Lord of the Rings in a nice box on cassette tape and has no cassette tape player? You should Google how to properly break in a book. Keep it sealed if you aren't reading. What is the proper process? What's the TLDR? Keep it sealed until you actually want to read it. Okay, we'll preserve the life of these books and I can read through them. Here's an interesting idea for the chat. It's a big project, so I'm not committing to this or anything, but I've thought about the notion of reading Tolkien on stream. Is that legal? Is it allowed, or is it copyrighted? I have read some of the Silmarillion. During the last subathon, I had read Tolkien as one of my goals, and I did read the first couple chapters of the Silmarillion, and I didn't get arrested or fined. And I think a lot of people read books on stream. Is it old enough that I'm allowed to do so? Or am I technically breaking a rule? And I will not take this as official legal advice, I'm just curious. Not until January 1, 2044. Yikes. Could you afford the strike? If so, then do it. I have 0 strikes on any of my platforms. Hold it with the spine against the table closed and then open the covers flat, slowly one at a time, then do the same with the pages, alternating until it's to the middle of the book. Read it backwards and then tell people to listen to it in reverse. Wizard of Oz went into public domain a few years ago. Read us Oz. That'll be fun. Reading is enjoyable. It's a little bit tedious to read aloud, but I think it's fun for people to listen to. You waiting for Winds of Winter to be released. That'll outsmart those copyright bots. Yeah. Well, cool. This took a while, but I went through the Neuro bookshelf. Huzzah. Oh, there's a book that's not on my shelf that's over here. I missed one. Oh, I should go over the classics that are not on my bookshelf because they're used so often on stream. Excuse me. These are very important. Miyamoto Musashi, Book of Five Rings. This one is legit. Very good. I have read through it multiple times, and I reference it fairly regularly. Miyamoto Musashi is perhaps the most storied samurai of all time. Debatable as to whether or not he was physically the best fighter, but he was also a philosopher and he wrote down a lot of stuff, so his deeds were most likely remembered better than some other warriors. Understanding the value of armor, understanding different fighting styles. He's got a lot of principles for living. Do not let the mind become clouded inside. Keep it broad, and place your wisdom in that broad place. It is very important to polish both wisdom and mind earnestly. Sharpen your wisdom. Distinguish principle and its opposite in the world. Learn the good and bad of all things. Experience the arts and accomplishments in their various ways, and act in a way so that you will not be taken in by anyone. This is the heart of the wisdom of the martial arts. The use of the feet, how to direct your opponent's eyes. Basically how to stand relative to the sun so you can see the battle well. How to engage multiple opponents. It's really cool stuff. It has some like ideas for the mind, and also it has some ideas for how to physically do sword moves, which is pretty funny. I don't usually apply those. And then I have Sun Tzu, Art of War, absolutely one that I reference regularly. You can redeem channel points to make me read some of that. Bruce Lee, Striking Thoughts. This is a collection of a bunch of his different sayings. Also very good, has a lot of advice for life as well. Always keep your goals in focus. Keep your mind on the things you want and off those you don't. Ooh. Do you waste time thinking about things that you dislike when you can focus on your next goal? And then there's another one. Hagakure, The Secret Wisdoms of the Samurai. This one is by Yamamoto Tsunetomo. This one, I think Eche Fatum gifted this to me or recommended this to me. But thank you, Eche Fatum. This is a good one. It doesn't, it's not good all the way through. It does also have some like Japanese cultural stuff from the time that was like kind of fucked up. I don't need to get into all of that, but age of consent, I'll just say that. That's a more modern thing that I think we're becoming more broadly aware of. Wow, this is good life advice here. Paying no attention to a man enjoying good fortune will not augur problems, but you should do your utmost to assist a friend who has fallen on hard times to get him back on his feet. This is the moral code of a samurai. It talks about you'll know who your true friends are by who visits you when you're ill. But when people are being all gushy and trying to schmooze with you when you're doing well, they don't really care about you. They care about your success and your clout. They're clout chasing. Those who revel when times are good will wither in adversity. It is not sufficient just to remain calm in the event of catastrophe or emergency. When challenged by adversity, charge onwards with courage and jubilation. This is rising to a higher level. It is like saying, the more water there is, the higher the boat rises. I referenced this one whenever I had my big viewership downswing. There was the period where I had the war chest promotion. Y'all have heard me do this rant before, where I had 1,000 viewers, and then the war chest promotion ended, and I went back down to 200, 300. And I felt very personally responsible for this, like that I'd made a big mistake. And really getting out of that was finding that courage and jubilation and just being really grateful for who was still there and that people supported me in what I did, and how that's really what I need. Having the difference between 200 people supporting me and 1,000 people supporting me, that shouldn't matter. If my quest is true, I still pursue my quest. And my quest is to help people with their mindset and to encourage them to be uplifting to each other and not to be toxic to one another, and to focus on personal accountability and your own improvement and development as a gamer and as a person. So that's not dependent on having 50 viewers, 100 viewers, or 1,000 viewers, or 10,000 viewers. The viewer count doesn't matter for that sense. I would like to have more influence and more reach, but I need to have active gratitude for the people who cheer for me currently, and I need to keep my eyes on the prize of what I'm trying to do. So Hagakure, also very good. Samurai stuff does have some good things to it. Joe Rogan approves everything. It was said to him by a guest 5 minutes ago. So yeah, this is the full Neuro bookcase. So let's now do a poll. I don't know if Twitch polls will give me this many options. I'll try to do it, but if it doesn't, then I can do like straw poll or something. Okay. Which book should I read next that is unread currently? Project Hail Mary, Requiem, Weapon, Neuromancer, Second Foundation. I guess I need to read the first Foundation. Oh, it only has... You can only have up to 5. We're doing a straw poll. To the straw poll! Create your own poll in seconds. Create poll. What should Neuro read next? Voting type. We'll give a multiple choice. Okay. Only 5 options. It's not enough. What's up, Jack? And if anyone is browsing from the YouTube comments, feel free to weigh in. Divine Comedy. Unflattening. Ender's Game. The Blank Slate. Spunk and Bite. The Sense of Style. The Language Instinct. Candide. Cryptonomicon. The Left Hand of Darkness. A lot of people said good stuff about that one. Howl's Moving Castle. Wizard's First Rule. Can't Hurt Me. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Friday. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. But go to Lescherbach. The Maltese Falcon. Okay. If you're going to make a whole bunch of options, you should wait to do a second round. What do you mean, wait to do a second round? Yeah. I have it set to multiple choice for this. It's straw poll. Voting type multiple choice ranking poll? I feel like it might be hard to rank stuff that you haven't read before. Allow selection of multiple options. Unlimited exact number. Okay, we'll let you pick 3. You're gonna get like a 20% majority. Okay, everyone gets 3 picks. Advanced settings. Create poll. Okay. Pick 3. First past the post. Get your votes in. I'm also going to post this to my Discord in case people want to vote there. All right, let's peek at these results so far, if anyone has voted already. Neuromancer has 6 votes, Ender's Game has 6 votes, Left Hand of Darkness has 3. Nice. You're reading Neuromancer right now, interesting book, nice. Well, I appreciate people's interest in knowing what was in the bookshelf. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff that I have yet to read. I did inherit a bunch of these books at once when Kukyo passed away, so I wasn't able to read all of those yet. And I could do with getting in the habit of reading things more. It's a little bit different-y reading during a subathon since I'm trying to be online as much as possible, but post-subathon, or even during, I guess I could read some stuff if it's old enough. Neuromancer is the grandfather of cyberpunk. Cool. Neuro reading Neuromancer is very meta. Yeah. We'll get your votes in. I didn't put a cutoff on this vote, so I might put the link in the YouTube video whenever this is uploaded. But this has been Browse Neuro's Bookcase as part of the Neuro Subathon. Thank you all for helping us reach this goal and for participating in the chat and giving me feedback about which of these books is heckin' awesome. Thank you.